Hi, this is Dawn from GoingBeyondCoping.com. I'm a coping advocate here today talking about modes. This is part 2 of a series on modes. We covered in depth what the modes are: low, no symptom mode, combat warrior mode, and sleep sloth mode. And those are the places that we juggle throughout the day. Hopefully, you had some thoughts while you were listening about, oh, maybe that's why I can't handle X when I'm tired. Or some things are easier to deal with in some modes than others. And you'll find that some of the things you deal with can thrust you into another mode. And if you can figure out the why it thrusts you into another mode, that's where part 2 comes in, where you start noticing things. So hopefully you've already been keeping track of your modes if you listened any long time ago to part 1. It's very important to track things with chronic illness. I know it's a pain in the butt. I mean, who wants to spend their time tracking their own misery? But tracking it might help you shave off a little of that misery. So it really does make it worth the time in the long run. So as I mentioned, there is a graph that you can chart what mode you're in at what time of day, what day of the week, etc. You can do it for as long as you want. And then when you make changes, you can continue to do it and see, does changing this one thing give me more time in low symptom mode? Because that's a benefit. I mean, I don't know how hard or not hard your life is. I only know for myself. We're all different, and we're all struggling, people with chronic illness, with a host of different illnesses and a host of different symptoms. So if I can get 10 more minutes where I'm not like, my mouth is super dry and my back hurts, and I'm gonna try, that's how I ended up where I am today, was believing that trying makes a difference. And it did. I mean, it didn't fix me, not fixed. I'm not a snake oil salesman. But I'm happier more now than I was before, and I'm positive longer, and I can cope with a lot more things now. My husband tells me that I'm brave, but I really just don't see things the same way that I did before I started trying to get right in my head and wrap my head around the fact that I'm going to hurt every single day for the rest of my life. I'm going to have to nap every day, twice a day at least, for the rest of my life. Unless they develop a cure, yes, of course, that's the very rare exception. But I'm half a century old, nearly, so if that happens, great, but I'm not going to build my life around a cure. I'm going to keep going forward, because that's what I've got to work with right now. So, in part 2, we're noticing what affects you and how it affects you. So I think I had an advantage, if that's even possible to say, having narcolepsy, because with cataplexy, you have unique emotional triggers. If you don't know about cataplexy, a trigger elicits a response where your muscles give out completely. It can be your elbow, it can be your knee, it can be your eyes, it can be your entire body, and it's brought on by a trigger, a stimulus. Some people have cataplexy from really loud noises, or I actually read about some people who have cataplexy from hearing curse words. So there's so many different possible triggers running the gamut to being afraid, or things that irritate you, being hot. It's different for everyone, and that's why it's so important, especially if you have narcolepsy with cataplexy, that you pay attention to the way things happening around you affect you, because you can minimize your triggers. I just want to say trigger is a word that's been thrown around social media lately in a way that I find unappealing. I'm triggered by it. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people, primarily triggering to me in the public eye, was from people who suffer from PTSD. You experience a trigger and your experience comes back to you. But there have been a lot of people who've made fun of people who are triggered, and that sucks. It really does, because a lot of people can't understand that someone else's actions can cause a physical response within your body. They just can't. Like, not even a judge that I spoke to understood that someone's doing what they were doing was literally causing me physical pain. So you have to deal with it on your own. You're on your own. Most of this stuff, you're on your own. Your doctor treats people with your condition, but the things that he's telling you are for your condition. They're not for you. He may not know, he can't possibly know all of the facets that make up you. No, he, she, sorry, I didn't mean to seem sexist there at all. Most of my doctors have been men, save a couple. But getting off track, sorry. The doctor is treating your illness, and he doesn't know what your diet's like other than what you tell him. He doesn't know your exercise routine other than what you tell him. Can you possibly tell your doctor everything he needs to know, she needs to know, in the 20 minutes that you're with them? You can't. Even if you journal and bring it with you, that information's not going to be absorbed. So it's super important that you dig into you, because those are the things that the doctor can't see and can't know, and you do, and you can. If you notice, sometimes things will drive you nuts, and other times they don't bother you at all. Like, say, whistling randomly. You can be walking along, hear whistling in a song, you think it's great, it's wonderful, or you hear someone walking on the sidewalk and you hear whistling and you think it's great. And then in another instance, you're sitting on the couch and you're either super tired or very hassled or in pain, and you hear someone whistling and it just gets on your nerves. That's worth noticing, because you're in a different mode. When you're walking along all happy or listening to music, you're in low symptom mode, and virtually everything is easier. Somebody steps on your toe, oh, excuse me. Everything is easier in low symptom mode. Once you go into combat mode, regardless of how much combat you're actually doing, that changes. Your patience goes down, your frustration level gets higher, your ability to perform anything, tasks, emotional responses, is hindered by you combating your symptoms. Noticing those things will also help you on the back end, the guilt end, the end that we feel ourselves apologizing all the time for our symptoms for. You can't let other people make you feel bad that you're chronically ill. You just can't. If you have to go in your head, la 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 la, the whole time they're talking, do it. Do it, because you can't live a life like that where other people are telling you that what you're doing is intentional. It's not. And I will caveat that by saying, if there's truth to that, you need to own up to that. If you're using your chronic illness as an excuse, then, that's kind of on you. But only you know if you're doing that. You can't, sorry, bump the camera. You can't let other people assign that to you. That's something you have to own on your own. Everything else, just reject it. Just reject it. Know who you are. Okay, So what you can do going forward is spend some time either tracking or trying to notice when you change from one mode into the other. You want to try and see how much time you get on a regular basis in each mode. If you're not on any kind of a routine, it will be more challenging for you because it'll vary. And even people who are on routines, it varies, but typically with patterns, unless something interrupts them, they can go the same way, which is why people with chronic conditions are really encouraged to keep good sleep hygiene and go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. I found that really, really helps me with my automatic behavior, so I also highly recommend it. All right, so you're going to notice what moves you from one mode to another, both good and bad. Maybe you're feeling like poo-poo caca and someone comes along and does or says something and you forget you feel like poo-poo caca, and automatically you're up into low symptom mode and you're able to ignore all that noise behind you. So pay attention to things that do that for you, because those are where the coping lies for sure. Let's see. Oh, next video we're going to talk about attempting to affect change in those things you're noticing. So something happens and you're triggered by it, you have the physical or response to it. What can we slip in the middle there, if anything, to change that trigger into something else? What kind of analysis can we do on that triggering event to see if we can change it? So that will be part 3. If you haven't subscribed already, feel free to subscribe and you'll get notified of new series that I produce. Part 4, we're going to talk about examples. So we've got 3 and 4 left to go. And thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, just to be nice. I'm already disabled, I don't need to be beaten up too. If you want to hear about anything in particular, how I deal with it or what have you, feel free to leave that in the comments. You can also find me on my website at goingbeyondcoping.com. And on Facebook, I run the Positively Narcolepsy support group. If you have narcolepsy and wanted to join that, you can find it by just searching in the search bar. Thanks so much, and I wish you coping.